Lo, exiler, variegated splendor opening. I am involute and fi, this weather begging over. Dissembler of interdicted fate, sustained a cryptic fissure. I took care to cover our eyes, as the future was a weak force against us. Bare autumn ether of consequence, in immutable asymmetry, higher night heron proleptic and frustrated by planets. If I am some harsh settler, re-entered to low country, present-like and reachable, then why do you welcome me? This childhood is a fretting cusp, brimming and degenerate, feeding on extinguishing belief, breathing water in the light. Some actual calculation, some trepid blue aridity, feastless and catastrophic. I had to tell myself it's only music. Here the ocean walks the ended earth, up out of the cloudburst, ahead of the tempest. Wedded to a cumbersome image, I was pressed against whatever I could find that was penumbral and tremulous with life. O fabricated absence, the fake sun with its fake eyes, whose malevolence was your life, or the feeble halos of. I said the intelligence of night, but meant all the concealed life, countervailing a malignant sign, bordering submergence. Fickle communicant, steel-wise and sober, a lush bender of numbers, but whose love was blood. Tell me I am unlike any animal, wild or symbolic, wary or laconic, made for some sublunary purpose. I said a change is going to come. Part 5. There was a breach in the reckoning. Atlantis was a faceless diamond floating above two cupped hands. Algae lay across the surface of that world like a vertical pollution. It was the middle of the third event. Wasps pollinating the willow reminded the archaeologist that action isn't life. Perhaps she was simply unable to capture the conceptual nature of sublunary things. Perhaps all she had contrived up until that point was a vulgar history of malediction. A narrative so still and humid with falsity that mosquitoes could breed in it. Perhaps together the inner and outer sea made a myth anatomy, wondrous and misleading. The archaeologist thought to herself, I cannot consecrate myself to anything less infamous than a city removed from the earth. In their meetings, Powell, wonderless but panicked, evoked the prairie meadow, thrush, pontoons, and philandering, as well as vales, abandonment, and night. She murmured the petroleum body is co-evolved to evening land, its orchids and its moths. They've left us to epochal drift and eternally degradable soil and habitation. While Atlanteans displace the mud beneath this dead ship, elsewhere they speak of a new kind of history. The familiar empire of future darkness is precipitant. We have been refracted through the uneven development of the miraculous. Unable to advance from misadventure, the archaeologist endeavored an accounting. Atlanticity proceeds from a victory over accidents of formlessness. The ethnographic encounter, even if fabulated, enables a series of speculations concerning the Atlantic and the Mediterranean worlds. This, despite her ability to symbolically organize them or establish their structure, contributing to systematic ambiguity. Here she assents to capricious procedures which, when aligned to a fiction, presages reduction. Powell explains that her people practice organic social forms in relief against the falsity of civilized contact. We take nothing negotiable out of the New World. Ours is a society of the flood. But from whence comes this bad infrachromatic power? Those things involved a prior sun, being licky in providence and in higher love. Does the banditry of the earth overlay it? Yes, the banditry of the earth overlays it. In Atlantean memory, childhood always takes place at night. It is the effect of what some here call futurelessness. They recount the hatching of a mantis nest, thousands of infinitesimal mantises born from the pale sac, caught in a stream of attenuated light, moving weightless in the air of the room, collapsing the space between the eye and a series of lines bordering the visible. One might go hunting for their childhood at night near the mouth of a river. One might descend into the water with a lamp across one's forehead. One might carry a net made from porch screen and a plastic bottle on a shoestring. A parallax view of the swamp at night with 100 of these lights. It is these places which are without end. They gather and root and grow dark like a dead language. They call on us to bury the drowning, reactivate the mooring, commit to the crystalline process. We belong to their total imaginary. The third event is a technique for enduring places, those that are ceaseless and those that are so far undestroyed. The archaeologist asks Powell, what defines a substantial mutation or a ruination? What was peace to the people who worked this land and died in war? What do they mean when they say Atlantis buried outside to be one? You have the eyes of a martyr. In Oakland, the helicopter's perpetuity is like an ornament. The being in being with good people and the good in it. Ash vocation among the species. Blood in the mouth of friends. When I cried during sentencing, it was for a certain terror. With the same small cans of paint, a scandal, now at the hour of our hanging sons. We are fit for lambency and individually unsalvageable. Let each deliver themselves from this helical place, with filth among love, love among machination. It resonates from the edges of these colonies, a smug propriety of paradise already, albeit vicious with bad geography. As what we testify seems wet but late, wrought by place and patrimony. What we mean to the enemy addressing me now, as what slides brightly across our scarlet ethics, scarlet things enacted, as we slide brightly at times across the surface of the enemy, who's not indifferent, but in white fascistic panels. Being of unequal historical orders, ourselves a now dead segment in a line of force, I hesitate, my own heart reversed, heuristic. But it was not by saying anyone can live, as we often did, that I contracted wakefulness against these states, consorting as I did with the surface of a limited music. Dear prisoner, December was and serpent's milk is also. In the weep, the crit, the crime, the sleep, those Grigori cleaning streets, burning the largesse. As you were caught among the rush, so not far off, police are reading from our separate lilies, wherein I try to offer you a piece of survival. if these 7 red stars are a seal elided by my very American life, how being shook in the quake of your body departing is a bow I continue pulling across the throats of you I have abandoned. As a consequence, how graces suffer. This is the court of certain things we inhabit, and I am with that mystery and its semblance, to take off the body of a decent thief and lay down with you in the gasoline thicket. About leaving without disclosing when there's nothing to do but forgery, tire fire, to crush your lover's hand as their friend pricks you with an old word for night, your hip a sign, and you are inarticulate or avoiding clarity. Wallace from his horse was a shadow falling, likely time to bring out the living, faltering and red. At night the states, try to keep the psyche in this box. Its dust is always already black. I'm keeping a knife in my pocket like a commoner. There is a part of you you grieve, but I do not, and so am heretical or bestial or vulgar. When you're ready, put me under and cut me out of any and all dark habits. So damn sick of being, as you are surely breaking white, without the sun or its intentions, those museums of soft descent, what's left of you by spring, able-bodied, gully ethics. The morning you were taken, when our comrades sang before the crusher's face, the form of this is passing, and we're beaten on the 7th floor in the last days where we live. Not the squatted mausoleum for those believed to just be sleepers, while their servants rigged the elevator so that I among the citizens could not hear screaming. I said, "What's happening?" The cop said, "Something's happening." I had written you a note that said, "I know we'll meet again beneath the war angels," but couldn't get there fast enough. A testamental smell of water, the men here are innocent and laugh. To believe in kinds of mass, it called again, as we are those who await through cake and versatility. It is a sad hour to be young and deft, or mad with truth, and break in days and years. Fuck, what good are poems? Poems have eyes like us when we've changed imperceptibly, and get in with the danger. When I die, bury me inside the gypsum mine, where the martyrs are, would die for love, hounds of. We grew quiet and bowed out as a consequence of grace. When I die, bury me inside what the other megafauna do. The moon over Oakland was massive and hung as if about our lives. So I stood in the street with Marlowe watching the cold, gold-blooded, and thought we will have survived our own mistakes. For someone to appear with a book of how we, the archers, ceased, such ultra-weak luminescence, as good as Aramaic, no, Sebastian, what providence, afraid for my new throat, this scar, the end of one labor, how you are alive, of your tiny daughter. We shot crossbows through the warehouse, as I can no longer say that this is not what I meant to do to you. Hollow sense of restrained fidelity. In the last of days, we have changed our names. In the now of night, we grew quiet and saw the problem with our bodies is this and other countries enduring. It will become them to ask for us under eternal, as heaven cannot place either our name or our face. Nephlem, cannons, Obispo, usurper. Thank you.